What's good, people? It's your boy Khalil Ismail, and I've been hearing about this whole Steve Harvey, Tamar Jackson joint, where people have been talking a lot about the recent comments made by Steve and Tamar, basically that without a doubt, Carte Blanche said that a woman in a relationship needs to be dressing for her man. If he wants her to wear a wig, wear a wig. If he wants her to change her hair, change her hair. She wants her to change her appearance, change her appearance. And without a doubt, do that because that's a good thing in a relationship. And it goes well. And Steve Harvey even went all the way to the level where he basically was like, if you don't do that, he's gonna go out and find someone who will, or find someone else, or he's gonna step out, right? And and listening to them, and hearing the different points they were making, and then looking at a lot of the responses, I saw really two things, including the initial thing. I saw extremes. So I think they were right and they were wrong. And the first thing I want to tackle is that one, and I'll get back to this, but from the beginning, we can never, ever, ever blame anyone for cheating, regardless. Even if they didn't do anything right, we can't blame them for cheating. We can blame them for doing wrong in the relationship, but we can't blame them for cheating because we always have a choice to even leave or go find somebody else and be honest. So we can't blame them for cheating. I'm not saying that, there aren't times where people understand what happened, but you can't blame them. And correlating how a woman looks to cheating is a dangerous, unhealthy thing. Again, correlating how a woman keeps herself up or looks in a relationship is a dangerous correlation to cheating. And I'll jump in and I'll tell you why right away with that. Um, we don't live in a land where everyone has a neutral, unprogrammed, unbiased opinion of beauty. We live in a land where beauty has been fed to us from the beginning by primarily European and Eurocentric thinking and models of thinking and models of art and models of what beauty should look like. And it's very purposefully done, purposefully programmed. And taking that into account, we got to understand that a lot of individuals who have been brought up and not really tried to fight that in a very intentional way, they have so much of that in them. So therefore, their barometer and measurement for what success looks like and what good looks like and beauty looks like is skewed by the programming, and therefore they might not be happy with things that they might be happy with it had they never been programmed. Number one. Number two, that means that a person who can never be made happy. Imagine being somebody who tries, but if the person isn't happy with the person who tries, are you saying that it's up to the person asking or demanding the look? They get to decide when another person looks good. So that's a dangerous, slippery slope to actually correlate cheating with a woman not doing that. Now, there are extremes, of course. So if you got a woman who's like, yo, I don't care what you say, I'm gonna dress however the hell I want to dress. I don't give a crap about your opinion. And or she goes out and she looks real good when she goes out, but when she comes in, she looks like she just got rags on and stuff like that. That's an extreme, and yeah, that's a problem in a relationship. And again, if a man can't take it, he can always say, hey, look, man, I don't know if I'll be able to handle this. And so, maybe you can find someone who likes that style, but he don't got to cheat. You know what I'm saying? You can always leave before you cheat. I say that all the time. So therefore, this idea, you don't want to put in people's head that that is condoned, because that's cheating is more about an inability to be honest than it is about what the other person does or doesn't do. Cheating, but that's what we have to kind of believe also, that cheating is a betrayal of God first before we believe it's a betrayal of a person in order to think that way. Otherwise, then yeah, I can see why you think that way. So, one, I want to get that out of people's head that somehow that you know um, a woman not doing exactly or looking exactly the way the man wants her to look is going to lead him to cheating, or wants her to change her looks. There is another side to this. I do think that there's some merit to looking and wanting the opinion and then trying to, you know, uh, please your man, in the way you look as a woman. And I think there's power in that, and that shouldn't be ignored. But that's a separate issue. To start out, uh, the first thing we have to acknowledge, or I think we need to look at, is that um, 9 times out of 10, the man has the ability to shape uh, and formulate an environment that's safe for a woman who, and how she feels about herself in regards to the relationship. So, and the way you do that is that you celebrate her natural beauty, you know, and that means that when you are searching for someone who you want to be with, that you respect her and yourself enough to actually search for someone who you actually say, okay, you know what, I like her beauty. I like how she looks, or I like the aspects that I really like about her are so good that it can carry the relationship forward. As opposed to, there's some guys, for example, who get with women who they don't care really about how they look at all. They don't like how they look at all, so that they can treat them as charity cases or treat them as if they're superior. There's some men who do that just so they can have a certain amount of control over the woman, because if they feel like, this woman is better than them in that way, then they will not have the control and not be able to do things. On the other side, it's very interesting. There are men who go after women who are not on their level, when it comes to beauty, and so and sometimes it has to do with them showing them off, or sometimes it just has to do with the fact that they were confident enough to get them, and it's all good. But the point is that no matter what you do, you should be in a relationship where you can honestly and truthfully say, I can celebrate beautiful traits or pretty traits or good traits or traits of attractiveness that you have that are natural. And why do I say that? I say that because, you know, we can augment ourselves and put makeup on and put wigs on and change our hair all we want. But at the end of the day, we wake up sometimes, and when we look in the mirror when no one else is watching, we see ourselves. And we have and when we see ourselves, uh, when we don't have other human beings as mirrors to validate uh, the good we have in us, we tend to question it, right? We tend to question it. And, there is something about the human being that is safer when they can celebrate with who they naturally are versus when they have to put on some type of air just to be accepted. And, there's no doubt that happens in relationships. So, I would say you have to, in the beginning stages, don't fool yourself into thinking that that somehow you're being noble by finding someone that you don't even like to look at, because it's gonna most likely cause problems. And of course, there are extenuating extreme circumstances, but I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about generally. Generally, it's gonna cause problems for you down the line when y'all have issues. Then you're gonna blame her, right? So don't set yourself up like that. Then, as a man, your job is to nurture that safe space with your woman and constantly be telling her in her natural state, that you like the way she looks, and reinforce that with action. Reinforce that with your intimacy, right? Show her that you approach her and perform the way you need to perform, approaching her without all that stuff, and she'll see, and she will see, and it'll be backed up by action. Oh, he really likes me regardless, right? So then after that, when because you chose someone who you can kind of already naturally feel like, I I can feel her regardless. Then it's okay if she wants to accentuate or augment or add things to make it, even sweeter. So, but one of the things that I think we have to be careful about, especially, is hair, because hair has been used for a long time to signify certain types of beauty, right? And so in the case of hair, right? I don't think it's healthy for a man to demand his woman to change her hair from natural to something that is chemically induced when she doesn't want to, when she's opposed to it, um, when she's okay with who she is otherwise. I think that can be a very damaging thing. And when a man wants to do that, he should acknowledge it as something that's programmed in him and something that maybe he's got to work on in terms of how he can psychologically change his view of what beauty should be. So even if he wants it, he's saying, yeah, I might want it. I'm being honest with myself, but this is about me. It ain't because you ain't beautiful. It's because it's probably something that's programmed in me. And man, maybe I'll go to God and figure out how I can, and ask Him, to help me to love you naturally or whatever you got to do. But don't put it on her, that she wants her to be natural. Otherwise, it becomes a very dangerous thing because it gives a sign that she's not enough. What God gave her is not enough. So, hair is a good signifier of that. Now, there's some people who say, okay, I wear wigs. I want to wear a wig so, to fulfill a fantasy of his or whatever the case may be. I think they were talking about that type of thing. And honestly, that's an individual preference thing, right? Because if you got two people who already have established that they appreciate each other, and he has established that he likes the way you look regardless, and then y'all want to play in that way and have some fun and spice it up in that way, because you have established a foundation that you love her regardless, then I don't think that's harmful. I think it can be fun and good, and I think you can have fun with that type of thing, and I think it's good, again, if you do that, but it requires that you're on a consistent level, giving her the confidence that it's not that she needs or has to rely on this wig or whatever to be beautiful, but she does it, but when they do it, it spices it up and it's fun. If you haven't done the work beforehand to let her know that she's appreciated naturally, then it becomes harmful when you're constantly asking her to add things or augment things to herself outside of that. Another thing, for example, is the surgery stuff. I don't know how many guys are actually asking for this type of thing, but if people are, again, it's an unhealthy thing because it's not her body. You know what I'm saying? And there are health risks and health repercussions for doing that, right? So you gotta be careful with how you see these things, and it's not black and white. You know what I'm saying? If a woman, for example, is already getting chemicals in her hair to make her hair straight and that type of thing because that's what she wants to do, or even that's because she really feels like, okay, you know what, that's what makes me feel better and that's what makes me feel like I look better, right? Well, if you don't mind it, it's whatever, right? But I would even say in those cases, encourage her and tell her and show her through your actions that her natural beauty is better. Why? Because the chemicals actually are hurting her head. I mean, I don't know if you've ever seen documentaries on things that the chemicals do to your hair, but it actually affects your brain, right? So I think if there's a one hard fast rule you go by is that what you want your wife, your spouse to be, and then you want yourself to be for her, is you want her to be her best self, right? You want her to be her best natural self. If you encourage her to be her best natural self, then she will see that, wow, you know what, I'm enough, right? Because sometimes we see in people, both male and female, females and can see it in males can see it in females. We see beauty in someone who doesn't see it in themselves. And when we do that, we have the effect of validating them in ways they never thought they could be validated in. And it helps and it's healing, right? So, if we come into a situation and we're demanding them to change their natural self, and when I say natural self, I mean things like change the texture of your hair, and I can't see you unless the texture, I can't stand you unless the texture of your hair is unnatural, or I can't stand you unless you have this type of surgery. I can't stand you unless you change your body in some type of way. Then that becomes an extreme problem. And I think it's okay and good for a woman from a self-esteem standpoint to resist changing her natural self if that's what he demands of her. But really, when you're in a relationship where you're working towards mutual reciprocity and love, then you're gonna want to do things for each other. And like, if he says, okay, you know what, I want to see how you look in that, I always had this fantasy. It depends on the confidence y'all have in each other. If y'all got confidence in each other and she knows that you got her back, you'd be amazed at what she'd be willing to do. And I think it's healthy. That's healthy. But y'all have to feel that out. And if you mistake that confidence and you ask her something that she's uncomfortable with, then I think it's good and healthy that she says, I'm uncomfortable with this, and here's the reason why. And if her reason is that I don't feel like this makes me feel like I'm not enough, then leave it alone. Trust me, the relationship is not worth that. Because if you're doing something to make her feel like it's not enough, it's not worth that. Because as men, come on, man, we have an ability to adapt, right? We can absolutely adapt. So, and any committed relationship, love goes way deeper anyway. The love goes way deeper anyway. Now, if we're talking about relationships that are fly by night, that's a whole other dynamic. I don't really got nothing to say about that because, many more things go. We're not really created to work in a way where our intentions aren't to be with a person over a period of time. And when we do that, we're actually changing the nature of how we are. I know a lot of people are doing it now, but that's also where we got all this craziness with relationships today. So that's a whole other psychology. So again, from the male side, man, you got to make sure, regardless of what you ask, is that in the in between time, in the consistent times, you're constantly reinforcing her being her natural best self, and then it becomes easier to celebrate those augmentations, those that extra makeup she wants to wear. Maybe she wants to switch her hair up or whatever the case may be, and it's okay to encourage that. Or if you even have something that you want to ask, ask of her. Ask her for it, but also make sure that you provide the space to where if she's uncomfortable, that you like, okay, I got you. And the only way you can do that is if you're with someone who you respect how they look anyway in the first place. So that's why it's important in courtship to make sure that you're finding someone who you feel like you can respect how she looks and appreciate it and have some positive feelings about, you know what I'm saying? So that's number one. And after that, on the woman's side, I think it's absolutely refreshing and good and beautiful that you want to look good for your man. And I think it's something that we're a lot of this society is trying to make us lose, but it's a great thing, especially when you have a man who's, doing for you, who cares for you, who does consider you, who's sensitive to your needs and that type of thing, tries to make you happy. Relationships are a thing where you both should exchange trying to make each other happy. And if he likes something and it doesn't, your line should be that it does not actually conflict with your ability to feel good about yourself. Because if what he's demanding asks you to not love yourself, then you got to choose self-love over that. And you got to explain it to him. And guess what? If he's a compassionate man, he'll understand. If he's not, then maybe y'all are not really meant for each other in the first place. Because the rule has to be compassion when it comes to this thing. But after that, go wild, have fun, dress the way you want, wear wigs, do whatever you want to do, you know what I'm saying? As long as you're not really changing. I'm a person personally, now getting to my personal opinion, I like natural beauty. I don't even want to see all that other stuff. I enjoy natural beauty, supernatural beauty, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, somebody want to wear some eyeliner and stuff, I can see where that accentuates a beauty that's always there, but it accentuates it. I don't like all that super makeup and all that other stuff. I mean, that ain't really me, right? But that is, if two people agree on that, I can't say nothing. The main thing is that regardless of whether you agree on how she changes and switches it up to spice it up, regardless of whether you agree on that, the main thing is that in the in-between time, during those consistent times, that he's reinforcing that he loves you and he loves the way you look anyway. And he is the main one to set the tone for that. And as a woman, it's important that, that I think that, you do appreciate that God, made you the way he made you. And the way you do that is that, you stand up for yourself in there. Like, what, like if someone is asking you to change your body, and change your way you don't want, I think it's good that you express that that's not what I want to do. But don't do it just because, and lastly, what we don't want to do is don't be conflicting just because, somebody else or your friend told you that, he don't got a right to tell you what to do and all that stuff. No. In a relationship is a thing where you both have pretty much decided that you want to be good for each other, you want to help each other, you want to make each other happy and satisfied and fulfilled and that type of thing. And so, because of that, then you both spend a good amount of time doing things that make the other person feel good and feel validated and that type of thing. And then to end, the last thing I want to say is, again, to go back to the statement that Steve Harvey made, correlating um, the fact that if you don't make yourself look good, yes, it's important in your relationship to look good in your home for the person that you're with, man and woman, and that's defined by how the man and woman, the preference of the man and woman. But it is dangerous and unhealthy to suggest that another person can dictate another person's sin. One person can dictate another person's sin. So then another person, cheats or goes out in a relation, goes out and does stuff he ain't got no business doing in a relationship. That's an issue and a weakness within him. You know what I'm saying? And regardless of what happens now, if a woman decides she doesn't care about how she dresses, she walks around in rags in the home, but she looks good outside the home, that's on her. But those are separate issues that have to be addressed separately. You know what I'm saying? If the guy, if you're a guy and you like, I need a woman who loves the way she looks in the home and loves how I like to look at her, and that's what you need, then say that. And if that's not what she wants to do, then y'all might just have to chalk it up to y'all are not compatible. But you don't ever correlate cheating with what the other person isn't doing. And again, lastly, I'll tell you why. Because what happens in those instances where there's a lot of instances where a woman or a man does exactly everything that the other one asks of them. And it's never enough because the person who's asking for the favor, asking for you to change yourself, has an inherent self-love problem with themselves. And so they don't even know what they want. And they just get off on having the power of you doing whatever they want them to do. Well, if your mindset is that if I do enough, then he won't cheat, then you will be enslaved, right? Because you won't know that. So it's important that, we don't correlate sins with somebody. When somebody goes out and sins, we don't correlate that with what we did. Now, can I contribute to his void? Yes. Can I contribute to her void? Yes, absolutely. What he or she does about your contribution to that void is on them and their relationship with God themselves.